Hello, Smile here. It's been a while since I made a couple of videos, and this month I'm gonna, I have like a whole freaking list. You can't really see that. Let's do the influencer thing. Ooh, I have a whole like 14 freaking points that I want to make. They're not really points, and they're not really like arguments. I just kind of wanted to shed light and talk about some things that I remember experiencing or just thought about in like regards to LGBT history. And not like, I'm not gonna be like doing any historical or like super in-depth analyses. I'm not super statistical and like analytical, and just anything that I talk about is just kind of like things I noticed or think like perspective based, like personal. It's not always like this is like undeniable. I'm not here with like absolute chronology and like statistics and data and everything. I'm just here to talk about whatever I do whenever I do. And so I just kind of wanted to think about I was thinking about Laika, and okay, so like I love a redhead, right? I love redheaded men. I am sick. I am like in the jumps, in the trenches, like I'm sorry. It's weird to me that people don't, but like that's not fully, we'll get into that a little bit later into the video. But I remember I was 2012, which is like 10 years ago now, which makes me feel really gross. I remember being part of like a bunch of, what is it? I don't know if I'd seen Coraline at the time, but I remember it making waves on Facebook, and on Facebook, like at the time that was like, the biggest social media platform that there was, and there was all those like, I think same-sex marriage stuff was getting more like prominent in that it was being talked about more, and like people were like fighting for rights a lot more than they had been lately, or like more legislation was being like talked about to be pushed. And because I remember being part of some groups that were just like, like just LGBT people who were there, or just following groups that like support it and just all that stuff. And it was like, I remember at some point, this wasn't in the groups, but at some point I just remember seeing an article shared that was like, the LGBT, like the gay character in Paranorman. And I didn't watch Paranorman in theaters like when it came out, but I remember like as soon as it came out, like, okay, I don't know, maybe I'm gross, but I was like, I wanted to look it up, and I saw like a couple articles that were like talking about the character and everything, but I didn't really know what they looked like and everything. And so after like finding, like just reading about it and everything, I was like, I want to know this. And it's kind of weird because like, when you're like kind of starved for some kind of representation, because like I knew at the time, you don't really, like there wasn't any representation, because of the like all the articles that I was reading about were like talking about how it was like the very last scene, basically it was like a one-handed, like just off the mark, like out of nowhere remark. It was just like a sentence, and it was at the very end of the movie. So as like what you could argue like from today's lens 10 years later, it's like, oh, it's kind of bad that they had to like hide it into the end, but like that's kind of the point. Like it was something that was like so subverted into the movie that was like obviously not relevant to the plot, which is like nice. And it was also just like a casual throwaway comment that didn't have any impression on anybody, which is like, a better thing than probably would be handled then, because like, someone saying like, oh, that's gay would constitute as like a joke back then. And so even just this like thing, it also wasn't like thrown in with humor, aside from making kind of fun of the girl who to her that was her love interest, like she liked this guy, and then the comedy came from him not having, like, the reason that he kind of really didn't notice at all that she was like throwing herself at him basically was because he already had a boyfriend. And so if you know anything about me, you probably don't know anything about me, but I love a redhead. I love redheads. And I read the articles, and like just I think this year like for its 15th anniversary, I think, was having 10th anniversary, I don't know, they were having re-showings of Coraline and Paranorman, and I really hope they do freaking the other movies. What is it? I didn't really watch Box Trolls, but they also had this LGBT representation in there. And there was Kubo and the Two Strings, and Kubo and the Two Strings was, I need them to re-show that because I was bawling in that theater. But it was interesting to me to see Laika take on that. Like there was obviously no like demand or anything. No one was pushing for Laika because they only had like one movie at a time. They just had Coraline on their like, in their catalog, and Paranorman was only, not to be rude, like piggybacking off the success that mainstream like Coraline had, and like this cult following that it continued to have for a while. And I think it was just nice to see, because I watched it again now. It was fun to me because I knew that it was coming, because I remember reading the articles ages ago, and also like, I love redheaded men, and like a buff just bar like eat it up, I'm sick. But it's interesting to see that there was so much outrage, and it, like obviously that upsets me to some degree, and it like upset me then because there was like people who were like, I didn't know that was gonna be in the movie. Why did they put this like hell like anti-Christian stuff in it? Like it was just like, you know, that kind of like regular like mom trying to like have to explain what like sex is, and I'm like, you don't have to explain what sex is because the guy just said he had a boyfriend. Like that's kind of all it was. And there were people who were trying to subvert it and like, oh, maybe it just meant like a male friend, and it's like, no, obviously the implicit, like it was implicit that it was like they were dating because the girl was like, oh, we should go watch a movie, and he was like, oh, my boyfriend's a total chick, like, not, you would love him, we should go and like see one or whatever. That wasn't that wasn't verbatim, you know. It was just like, I was just loosely quoting. It was just the gist was there, you know what I'm saying. And it bothers me that, I mean, obviously the like homophobic is gonna bother me no matter what, whenever, but it just makes me, I'm just kind of taken aback. And it was good to see, like, you know, like obviously there's only, every little step counts to be where we are now, and I'm glad that it was there. It just still just throws me off how much people get bothered by those things, or like were bothered by those things, and obviously a lot of people still are now, which is terrifying actually. But there was after that there was like that backlash, but nothing really came from it. And then there was Box Trolls, and Box Trolls was having like this, I think it was for adoption. They had this little like commercial because the boy in Box Trolls, if you don't know, is like an orphan, and he's like he has like found family because he gets thrown into like the sewers or something. I didn't watch the movie again. Like sorry, I don't know, but I know generally the kid is an orphan. The trolls find him. They found family. He thinks he's a troll. He ends up reintegrating with society, and they're like, what are you? Like, we're people, and it was they had a commercial that was,
sometimes there's a father and a father. Sometimes both fathers are mothers. Families come in all shapes and sizes, even rectangles.
And it was beautiful because, like, you know, obviously again they didn't have to do any of that, and it was like a bigger acknowledgement than just like a throwaway comment about having a boyfriend, because this is like a permanence thing, and also like a permanence in that this is marriage between two people of the same gender, and also there's that acknowledgement of like these people also have kids and like can have kids. And it was like for like adoption, obviously, because in those instances for same-sex people you can't, but it still like had the exemplifying like umbrella of like these are all parents, and I like that's good. That isn't something that you would think matters. Like right now, like me talking about it now in like the lens of like, now it's like obviously like what the fuck, like that commercial wouldn't leave an impression on somebody now so much. It still like means something to people who want to have parents, because like every year we have to like maybe get our rights taken away basically, but it doesn't mean anything to people now. But looking back at it from like me remembering, I liked, like, you know, I read these articles and it meant a lot to me then, and like those things are like not really groundbreaking anymore. It's, I don't know, I think it's kind of, it makes me feel bad and good. Like, I'm glad about the progress that we made, but it also makes me feel bad that like some people are, for starters, still there. Like, people don't believe like people, like two men can have a child or should be parents, or two women should be parents, and it makes me feel like terrible, of course. And I don't know, it's just certain kinds of performance that companies make, like in this month, because I'm gonna upload this during the month, and there's some kind of performances that some companies make that obviously doesn't reflect probably their values and the things that they fund money to. And this company was like, they had one movie under their belt at the time, and then until Paranorman, and even then they like just had the subverted thing, and the other ones don't have any. The Kubo and the Two Strings and Hidden, what is it? Not Hidden Figures, the link, Missing Link. Those don't have any LGBT like implications, and I guess technically Box Trolls didn't either. It was more of a fan family thing. They don't have implications of anything, so they like just in earnestness included these things into their films. There wasn't any pull for it, because in Coraline there was no love interest, even though people did make a love interest in the end, like just like headcanon kind of stuff, which is like, you know, your idealized projection of what you want in what you think would be thing. Like, no one was actually like thinking that they were dating, just like they thought they would be a cute couple, like Coraline and Wybie. And it's just interesting. I don't know, it just makes me feel good because that there's actually companies that care, you know. And like, I'm not like a diehard for these guys. I mean, actually maybe I can if I'm like a diehard, but I'm not a diehard. I stand a little bit, I have to. But it's nice to see that there's companies who actually do put things forward, and like, because you know, like when right now Disney goes back and forth between whether they think gay people should exist or not, and with like the Don't Say Gay Bo and the movies very much regressing on scenes that are same-sex implicit to appease foreign country streaming. And I say foreign country, other country streaming. And I don't know, I just can't, I think about it every now and then, mainly because, again, I love redheads, I love me a redheaded man, and it's just crazy to me because, like, every now and then, like, the things that you don't think about anymore, like, you just remember, like, whoa, this, like, means something. Like, again, like, every now and then I'm forced, like, outside of myself to be like, wait, I like men, and that isn't normal, and some people, like, hate that, and I don't even think anything of it, you know, like, to me it's just having a regular crush, but, I don't know, it messes with me, but, I don't know, it makes me feel good to know that that was a thing, and like even seeing that there was that much backlash, and how like something so minimal could mean something so drastic to people in both ways. Like, of course, like to me it meant something like pretty groundbreaking, because I was like, whoa, like this person, and then, like there wasn't comedy in him being like gay or anything. There wasn't hyper femininity. There wasn't conventionally like funny stereotype voice. He wasn't weak. He was like a buff, like football jock, hot, redheaded. I love redheaded men. And it was just like some normal dude who was like, you know, the cheerleader was interested in him. Like, he was like, I don't know if he was the quarterback, I don't really remember, but it was like no one saw him any different, and like the younger brother didn't treat him any different. There wasn't like any air that would have given you the assumption that he would have been gay, because, you know, like in that time 2012 had that general like, you're feminine, your voice is different, you're like kind of weak and frail. There wasn't like a masculine representation of just being a gay person without that affecting anything that you are. Like, it wasn't brought up. There wasn't any pop culture references that maybe would have been like, okay, this guy knows a little way too much about drag, like all this stuff, you know, like there wasn't any little things that fed to that. And with the box roast one, like obviously that was a good representation too, in that I didn't acknowledging that parents can be same sex, and some children don't see that as any different, and that still having any parental figure in a child's life is formative to them. And that was just, I don't know, it just makes me feel good that a company like that cared for no reason. Like, you know, it's nice to care about people, but like they cared without any motive or any pressure by anybody to make them care about these things. And like, you know, there's these companies that are gonna put their little rainbow stickers and their little rainbow things, and they're gonna be like, oh my god, we love you guys, buy our stuff, and they'll still like censor stuff, cancel TV shows. This is almost all Disney, actually. Like, Disney's canceling TV shows, canceling animated shows, taking out clips from when they stream that exact same movie in another country just to appease more people, I guess, which is lame, because I'm like, there was no monetary incentive for Laika, really. It was just something of like, I don't know if it was like an acknowledgement or an appreciation for like people that work there, but of course, like, that's also why companies should care, because I'm like, people work for you, and if they're like, oh my gosh, yeah, we hate you guys and you're nasty, then why would those people want to work for you? And like, obviously, like, this isn't a justification for like capitalism. It's like, oh my gosh, you guys should care because that means you have employees. Like, no, it's just like, you should care in general, and you shouldn't hold people for less, I guess, for just being things that they are. And it's just, I don't know. Obviously, I know this was kind of ranty, but it still makes me, I think it's something that worth talking about to some degree, especially in this kind of like day and age, because there's people to me who, when I look at my younger sibling who's like 7 years apart, like every year of people like younger or higher than me, I've noticed, because you know there's like those cultural differences, and like, not cultural, like generational differences that you acknowledge and notice, but between looking at my sibling, my older sibling, and my younger sibling, and even just years apart, like gradually in both directions, there was so much of a difference in the way people treat people. Because I know that when I was younger, this is like, not like younger, I'm still young, but I remember I was like a senior in high school, and there were these like freshmen talking, and this guy was like, yeah, I can't believe they let this guy on the baseball team after like knowing that he's gay and this and that, like, I don't like this team because of that. And then I was like, I knew that I was gay, like, obviously, and I was just kind of like listening to the side. I was like, am I gonna get beat up by this hick? Because like, don't give yourself away. Ugh. And this girl, like, out of nowhere, just started like ripping at him. She's like, you're pathetic, and I can't believe you would think something so terrible over someone who's just living their life and this and that. And I was like, get him. Honestly, I was like, it was surprising to me that someone could care so much for something that was like relatively controversial. And again, we're in like Arkansas, so I was like, oh my gosh, this girl's like, she does not care. But I'm like, also, women technically normally are allies in this kind of degree, like more so than men, obviously. And it's just, you know, looking from my lens, at least from my old ass lens, it's nice to see, because even with my like younger sibling, like, people don't care. And like, to some degree, there's still people who don't care in any level of like age. But I know that when I was like in high school, when I was growing up, and like I told people, like when I was coming out and everybody knew, there were people who were like, I don't care that you're gay, but in that sense that they don't like care about if people are gay generally, but they still wouldn't associate because I was gay. And like, I wouldn't hit on them or like think of anything. I was just like, there are people who were in former proximity, and then once they knew, like, you could tell that like they diluted interaction, and to the point where like I didn't really have male friends except like maybe like 2 or 3 who just were also in proximity but also weren't like homophobic. And it's obviously, it's not like blatantly homophobic to, I mean, actually, yeah, you know, let's just say it was pretty homophobic to be like, I don't mind gay people, but like, ooh, like now we don't talk, you know, like there's still like a intentional disassociation from that person just because of like, you know, me being interested in men. And like, you know, I don't see that in the younger generations, and that's just so crazy to me. Like, I am in awe and I love it. And like, it sounds sad, obviously, like if you're younger and you're watching this, like you're probably like, oh my god, like people didn't talk to you. Like, yeah, it's crazy, right? It fucks me up, because like I watched like people who are like my siblings, my younger siblings age, and they like don't care at all. Like, it's not, nothing's ever brought up. They're just like, oh cool. Like, obviously they've still told me about some people who are like bigoted for no reason, and I'm like, it still surprises me when people that young are bigoted, because I'm like, how? Like, there's so many more people who are so much more open now, like from that generation, that it's just terrifying to me that people are still like that. Like, obviously people are still always going to be terrible and bigoted, but like, still, like, come on. Like, people are doing pretty good progress for my age, and like, I'm like, people 7 years younger than me are like not doing that great of progress. That kind of S's me up a little bit. Like, that kind of makes me a little mad. I'm sorry. Like, but like, you know, I don't know. I just thought it was nice to talk about when a company actually cares and acknowledge that, I guess, because like there's not really many companies that I do remember leaving an impression on me, and maybe that is part of why I like actually do like this company more, aside from like me loving every movie they've produced. You know, I just, to be seen and acknowledged, it really means more than I tend to think about until like certain moments, you know? But I think that's it for this one. I'm gonna, like, this whole month I'm gonna be spewing out content about queerdom, I guess, because I want to talk about like representation, like Heartstopper and High School Musical the series. I don't know what chronology I'm doing this, because I have like 14 video ideas, as you saw. You didn't count, but I think I mentioned that it was 14. So I have like a bunch of ideas that I want to do, and that wants to be one of them. I'm gonna write that down again, because I don't think I did. But alright, thanks. I hope, I don't know, just, you know, what's up? Good for you. Let's live it up and keep living it up, I guess. Just, ooh, be true, be you, you know, like, I'm sorry, like, I know that's cliche and whatever, you know, that's all for this one. So bye.